welcome to Qsports. I am Umudu Kajaga and thank you for joining us. Coming up, we're talking about exclusively the Scorpions, the Gambia national team. For the very first time in many years, have won 2 matches in a row in the World Cup qualifiers, and their latest victory was against Burundi in the World Cup qualifiers March day 8. 10 points out of 8 matches. Is it enough? Is it good enough? And our World Cup hopes are finally over, because the most the Gambia can get in Group F is 16 points. That is, if we win the 2 remaining matches of the qualifiers, which is going to be in October against Seychelles and also against Gabon. But first, to get a gist of what happened, let's watch the match report. The Gambia defeated Burundi 2-0 on March day 8 of the 2026 African World Cup qualifiers, making it 2 wins in a row in the September window. In their previous match, they had defeated host Kenya 3-1. Aliou Fadera, who started the game as one of the players who didn't play in the win against Kenya, scored from the penalty spot to give the Scorpions the lead in the 34th minute in the first half. The award of the penalty came after a Gambia player was pulled down in the box as he went for a cross sent in from the left wing. The game was stopped for 25 minutes due to floodlights failure. Gambia doubled their lead when Ibu Adams scored a screamer of a left-footed volley following a beautiful delivery from a corner kick by Aliou Fadera in the 76th minute to seal the win for the Gambia. Their opponents, who were desperate for a win, huffed and puffed but could not get back on terms. Burundi had their moments in the game, including a shot which was blazed over the bar in the first half, and the Gambia keeper Baboucar Gueye was called into action late in the second half to make a save at the near post. Despite those few threats, the Gambia team was calm and resolute at the back throughout the game. This is how coach Jonathan McKinstry reacted to the win against Burundi, a team that defeated the Gambia 3-2 in the reverse fixture.
Yeah, really pleased. This was always going to be a difficult game because when you come into these camps, look, it was obvious that the Kenya game maybe might have taken a little bit more focus because you're playing in front of 50,000 people. They are the home team, and then to come off the high of that win and then come into this game in quite a small attendance, less than 1,000 people in the stadium. Although the Gambian fans, the community have turned out in their numbers. Really pleased with that. And so, but a different type of game, kicking off at 10 o'clock at night. Floodlights going out for 30 minutes. It's currently midnight and the game's just finished. So this was a really crazy sort of situation to find ourselves in. But the guys have worked extremely hard. A 2-0 win, a clean sheet.
There are 2 more matches to be played in October to complete the qualifying rounds. The Gambia face Gabon before ending their campaign against Seychelles. That's Gambia's game against Burundi to complete September window's World Cup qualifiers. 2 wins in a row. First, it was a 3-1 win against Kenya and the Nairobi Stadium. And this one also was played, of course, in Nairobi, but in a different stadium. Joining me in the studio is journalist Tijan Gueye. He's been following Gambian football for a very long time and has keen interest in the national team, the Scorpions, whenever they play. Say, you must have watched the game. What's your assessment of Gambia's game against Burundi?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gajage, and it's good to be back to your platform, and good morning to your listeners. Well, I think this window could be considered a very successful window, although we are talking about the Burundi game. But if we take the window holistically, we first had Kenya and then had Burundi. And of course, the game against Kenya, as Jonathan had said, took all the limelight because how the Kenyans have built up the game. If you know a little history about Kenya, you would definitely know that they are a football-mad country, and definitely they were looking forward to winning Gambia. And in fact, the trending term that the Kenyans were using all over social media was 50 million against 2 million, because Kenya is a population of 50 million, so they could not basically understand how a population of 2 million people can withstand them, not knowing that football doesn't work on those terms. And Kenyan football recently have had some recent highs because of the recent CHAN they hosted and have done pretty well, and of course the charismatic figure of their coach, the former South African Benedict McCarthy, all that have taken Kenyan football to another level. Let's not also forget that the Kenyan league is a very, very organized league. It's a professional league with the likes of Gor Mahia, the likes of Tusker, very, very successful teams in East Africa. So definitely with that, they are ahead of us. So they were looking forward to this game as favorites, but we went and I think personally that was the best game under McKinstry, although we won against Seychelles, but Seychelles were minus. And the way we played, the transitional play, how of course the forward players have dovetail, particularly Yankuba Minte and Adam Sidibe, how they dovetail from the wings to, of course, the main centre forward, and how, of course, Musa Barrow have interconnected with them. I think those three under Jonathan McKinstry's reign have been the three most, of course, outstanding players that have played and connected passes, and that was a really impressive game. We dominated them and won 3-1 comfortably. And then, of course, the Burundi game, surprisingly, the coach decided to, of course, chop all the three forward players, which was quite surprising to me. And Fadera came, I think, amongst the three that started up front. Fadera was the most impressive. I always have high regards for him, and we've seen him in the last windows. He was of course, given a lot of time by the coach, probably due to some other reasons that I might not know. And we all know how his plight in Como have dwindled down. That led to his moving to Sassuolo. Maybe Fabregas wasn't happy with him, particularly the red card that he took. And it will take a lot of character for a player that is down to come back stronger. We've seen him with Sassuolo doing well, but with the national team, I think the other day he showed, in the absence of Yankuba Minte and Musa Barrow, that he could be the technical leader of the team. And then he scored a goal, and particularly the penalty, because remember, Gambia recently did not have very good records when it comes to penalty conversion. He scored a very good penalty and assisted, and I think he was the most impressive. But we won comfortably in 2 legs, but my only but and worry about McKinstry, although sometimes when, of course, a team wins, people always focus on the good side of things, the positive side of things. But I think I've said it in some of my publications. I think there's a constant chop here and there, and at this point of time, I think everybody should know what is our best 11. Everybody should know what is our best team. Although he's showing that maybe he has absolute trust in most of the players that he has, particularly front players. But I think at one point of time, you need continuity, you need consistency, particularly going to the 2027 AFCON qualifiers. When we should reach there, we should know what we have in stock, the best players. Others, of course, might go out due to injury. Others might be left out maybe due to deep form. But I think as at now, we should be very much knowing who are our potential 8 out of 11 or 7 out of 11 starters. But notwithstanding, it's a win. But to me personally, I think that is something that he needs to do better. But overall, as you said, for the first time in a very long time, he won 2 games on the trot. And not only 2 games on the trot, in the last window where we had 2 test games, we won 1 and drew 1. So out of 4 games, we won 3. That is a very, very good return. We should not be overexcited. But of course, if we take everything into context, we can say finally, McKinstry is having his way and the team is moving in a right direction, and that is thanks to a lot of factors, because we've gone through we are still on a transition, but I think we've gone through 50 to 60% of the transition, because there was a team that took us to where we never thought we would go. That was African Cup of Nations. We had a lot of players in there. Some have dwindled down along the way due to injuries, some deeper form, and then we needed to integrate some young players. And the coach called a lot of players. I don't have the statistics here with me, but from McKinstry's first game to date, I think the number of players he must have called could exceed easily 60 players, different players. But notwithstanding, we've seen that he had a clear philosophy in switching from back 3 to back 4, but recently I think consistently has been with the back 3 formation, and we've seen some couple of players nicking their opportunities. Some have gone along the way, but we I think have 40% of the team that have quite established themselves as now regulars with the team. So let's wait and see the next window. We have 2 important games, despite we can't qualify, but I think we can qualify, but I think we have a bone to pick with Gabon, because I think that game against Gabon, should we have won that game, we would have been talking about maybe the possibilities of qualifying. Exactly. I think if you look at all the games in the qualifiers, bar one game against Burundi, the first leg against Burundi, that is the game that I can comfortably say we deserve to lose, because most of that game we were massively dominated. It was the last
losing
minutes of the game. That we scored 2 goals and all, came back to the game, but I think we didn't deserve anything other than a defeat. But if you look at Kenya, the first leg, that's a game that we should have easily won. Against Ivory Coast, minimum we should have had a point.
Yes.
Yeah.
In both legs, in fact.
In both legs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So looking at all those games, I think if you collected points in those games, we'd have been talking about something else. But of course, there is the factor of changing a coach. There is the factor of a new team that is being built up. There is inexperience. There is all of these things that culminate together that took us here. But it could be positive. But against Gabon in the next window, we have a very, very odd history against Gabonese.
For me, if you like me, if you ask me, I'm going to say for Gabon, let's spoil the party for them.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course, because they can still qualify directly to the World Cup.
World Cup, yes.
Because they're, I think 1 point separate.
1 point separate the two sides.
Cote d'Ivoire. Wherever we play them against, I think we have the weapons, we have the possibilities to win against them. And if you do that, we can make, even if they're going to qualify for the World Cup, we're going to make the route very much difficult for them. And that's something that we have to do, because the way they treated us, because I seriously believe there was serious foul play in what they did.
There is absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, there is no doubt.
There's no official, nobody who can come up with any excuses as to, midway, a country like Gabon, this is not some minnow country that you're playing against, and then all of a sudden you have power failure, floodlights went
and there are reports that it was only in the stadium that had power failure. So that was something that I think took the momentum of our boys, and they ended up winning 3-2. So let's complete the qualifiers in high, and then of course prepare for the 2027 AFCON qualifiers, because that's a must go to competition for us.
Absolutely. If you look at the team, say you've been a huge advocate for interjecting young players. You and I have been at press conferences where you've talked about the coach. Is it because you don't have trust in these young players because they've really started establishing themselves in their clubs, and they've been showing it through their numbers, sometimes through their goals, sometimes through their assists? The likes of Mahmoudou Bajo, Alaji Sen, you're talking about Seni Sanyang, you're talking about some other players who injected themselves in this team. This window, they got their opportunities. And virtually 99% of all these players have shown some glimpses of they are the future of this team. What do you make of their performances?
Okay, Gayaga, let me just say this. If you're a keen follower of Gambian football, like you and I, and the fans and all, of course, sometimes you feel hard done by with the situation, the infrastructural problems here and there. But I think if you're to be honest to ourselves, we know we should be very much proud of where we are now, and where if you consider where we were some couple of years ago or some decade ago. What I'm saying about this is, if you look at, for example, the players, the 25-man squad. I was looking at the squad yesterday at night, and then I was just drafting some brief statistics about the squad. If you look at 12 players out of the 25-man squad have played in our local teams. If you look at, for example, if you take Alaji Sen, Seni Sanyang, Mahmoud Bajo, and Adama Bojang, they were part of the 2023 World Cup. That was in Argentina. Yeah. And of course, you have others like James Gomez, who missed out due to some personal reasons, Omar Koli, Ibrahim Jaju, Musa Barrow, Aliou Fadera, Yankuba Minte, Ali Sow. 12 out of these 25 players played for our youth teams in different categories and different generations. And if you look at the total number of players that were produced here in our league, out of the 25, 17 were produced here in our league. That plays in, of course, these poor pitches, poor conditions, so on and so forth. And now they are playing professional football. And of course, out of the 25-man squad, 3 will be playing European competitions. Babukar Gueye, Mahmoudou Bajo. Yes, 2 would be playing European competitions, but there are others that have missed out in the squad, but they will be playing European competition. Of course, you have the likes of Yusuf Asanyang, who will be playing championship football, Sedi Janko, Ibrahim Koli, Ibrahim Sisi, Alassane Irija. 7 Gambian players, most of them apart from Sedi Janko, were all produced here in our local leagues, who will be playing European competition. And let's make a brief contrast with Kenya. I listened to Jonathan McKinstry during his post-match interview. He was like, Kenya, it will take time before they reach us because we have a lot of professionals, and Kenya do not have that. And even Benedict McCarthy said that if you look at the Gambian team, even players that are at the bench. Some of them are playing European competition. All of them are playing in Europe, unlike us. If you look at Kenya, a population of 50 million people with all their infrastructures, with their professional league, they cannot. We are even ahead of them when it comes to football, and definitely we can do better than what we are doing. But I think all put into context, we should be proud of where we are. I don't mind anybody being critical. I don't mind anybody being, of course, saying we want more. But at one point of time, we should say, hi, let's briefly celebrate what we've done, although it is not enough. But I think that is a general observation that I made about Gambians. We have problems adequately celebrating each other. And once there is a little issue that is of a difference, I think we have problems identifying the common problems that we share together, and of course the common differences that we share together, and of course our individual differences and our collective, of course, differences. And everything we jumble it in one bowl, and then of course we become so critical of each other that even the necessary things that we should build together as a patriotic nation, we could blast it away. Yeah. And that's, I think that is
being a hero for 1 second, and then the next minute you are a villain.
Yeah, and I think at one point of time we should all look at each other in the eye. Even if in difficult times we support each other and push each other. In good times we celebrate each other. When it's time for us to talk about, of course, the truth and hold people responsible over, of course, their handling of national issues, we do that. But after that, let's push each other and celebrate each other. But sometimes, even if the Gambia wins or Gambia do something good, most of the people will look at the negative side of it
instead of pointing fingers to say, but that was good.
That was good.
Yeah, we need to celebrate.
Yes.
We need
for example, what happened? What happened in these two legs is good. Yeah. If you look at this trend or the trend that Gambian football is going right now, it's good, and that is all thanks to, I'll always say, these coaches, because majority of these coaches and some of these club owners, you will produce players that overnight will become multimillionaires, and these coaches would be still here languishing, being paid $5,000, some $10,000, at most is $25,000, $30,000. And these players would become overnight multimillionaires. And all the time we say, okay, then what a dimbale player be, lutat dimbale one player. But are we talking about the overwhelming majority of
the coaches?
Of the coaches, the physios, the other people that work in the club to make sure that these players are in better place. Some of these people that taking their $50, $60 to give to these players. This was something that I needed to take out of my chest. But contextualizing it to the game and where Gambia is, looking at the number of players that we've injected, and I think the coach was slow to do these things. I don't see any reason why Mahmoud Bajo wasn't playing when the coach started. I didn't see any reason why. I didn't see any reason why, let's say, of course, a player like what is his name again? The player from Gunjur who is now part of the under-20, the midfield player. I just forgot his name.
Rashid.
I don't see any reason why he can be called upon. Abdullah Mane is part of these recent two windows, but I think if given his chance, he can blossom.
Absolutely.
These are players that we all watch here in our league. We know how good they are, but they've proven it by, of course, taking strides. And it is the onus is on us to integrate them. Just look at our neighbor, Senegal. If you look at the recent form that they're in, 24 games without losing and going to a hostile place like Congo and winning. And if you look at the overwhelming majority of their players that did the good job for them, they were, of course, all produced here in the likes of Jambar and Zedara.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't see any reason,
league and all of that.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we can't emulate those strides. And fine, we can say we are not happy not going to the AFCON, because I think that was a minimum requirement. We are not happy that we did not, of course, take it to the last minute in these qualifiers, because we had the potential to do it. But at one point of time, let's celebrate the good things that we've done, and we build up from there moving forward.
And if you look back, say, a little bit, you and I have covered the Gambian League. Some of these players that you've listed here, we watched them play. We know the struggles in the league at the time. How difficult it was going to be for a Gambian player to transition in our first division league, make it all the way to the professional level. Well, if we talk about a player, for instance, like Yankuba Minte, who now is the talk of the town, he is the darling, is in the limelight for all the good reasons, is one classical example. I remembered was some 10, maybe 12, 13 years ago when you and I first met. you had always had this conviction that these players, despite the difficulties in our league, despite the poor infrastructure that we have in coaching, limited technical capacity and all of these things, you had always believed in Gambian football. You had always believed in these players. One day or two, some of these players, because of their talent, it is going to push them to some level. So if you look at, for instance, a player like Minty and the others, you must be very proud.
Yeah. If you, I think credit also have to be given to some of these football administrators and also these agents that have, of course, joined the fray of Gambian football, because at one point of time it was, despite the huge talent that we have, but it was very difficult for any Gambian player to be spotted by any scout to be taken somewhere. It was very difficult. I think some of the good news started when we started playing in the Umbria tournament, when the likes of Ali, Hamza Bari were spotted by agents. Prior to that, it was the under-17 2005 generation. Yes. And at one point of time, when that faded away, and the 2009 faded away, we have to wait a lot of time until around 2011, 2012, 2013. Then we started going to the Umbria tournaments, and these players were being seen. And after that, there was, I could say, a blackout. It was very difficult. And then later we started seeing the likes of Real de Banjul started building connection here and there. And if you look at the connection that Real de Banjul have built up with Paid, every other window, Paid will sell a Real de Banjul, former Real de Banjul player to a bigger club, either in Slovakia, but one have gone to St. Pauli in the German Bundesliga. And if that trend continues, well, we can think of having players that would go to the Bundesliga, go to the Premier League, more players going to the Premier League and French League. So what I'm trying to put into context here is that despite the huge talents that we had, the football administration, football marketing, football scouting is a different level. And it is now that Gambians have built up links, have built up, of course, people that know how, not even learning it in certain institutions, but building up themselves. If you look at BI was just a journalist like me.
Journalist like us.
But he has, of course, transformed himself to be where he is today, and we are very much proud of what he's doing. And if you look at some of our clubs, I don't want to name some clubs, but some of the clubs that are being driven now are driven by journalists like us. They are administrators. They have taken these clubs to, if you look at Fortune, Molamen Drame is, of course, their secretary general. It has helped them to be one of the top clubs of this Gambia, and they are selling very, very good. If you look at Momodu Ba of course, Real de Banjul, Secretary General, he is doing a pretty good job. So these are people that have dedicated their lives in football and helped to put Gambian football in the map. And Gajaga, growing up, I've seen some players play here in our league. I was very much young, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I'm pretty sure those players were more talented than these players that we had.
Okay. I always bring that argument.
Yes, more talented. I saw the late Jimmy Kamara play in the sandy dunes of Pagi Afdai. That player was prime Xavi and better than Xavi, physically taller than Xavi. He hardly misplaced a pass on those sandy dunes. I've seen Sadio Omar Oga, he was called Maradona. He was as good as Maradona is. I'm not exaggerating. That's how good these players were. I've seen Baye Omar Samba being a level goal scorer, but never had the opportunity to, had some trials, but never signed. Sure. I've seen Abdoulaye Bojang, Prayer Abdoulaye Bojang was prime Paul Scholes in terms of how he played, how he passed, and how he can hit the ball. That these were absolutely great players, but never had the opportunity. So growing up, that was the belief that I have one day or the other, we'd have the opportunity to see some of our players play at this level. And thank God I'm witnessing it, but I'm never content. I believe we can still go forward, but that will take a lot of work. And I'm sure administrators are seeing the trend now, but it is not enough. And at one point of time, maybe in the near future, we'll amass a lot of players, have direct transfers to the Manchester Uniteds, to the Arsenals and all, because that should be the target, because the route is now a little bit longer. Now, most of our players go to Eastern Europe, Central Europe, before they go to Western Europe and all. But there are reports that we can have youngsters that can move, of course, to these big clubs in direct transfers. Let's hope that this trend continue, and then we can have better players playing in top of these leagues.
So just a few minutes before you go, but basically we can't end this program without talking about Matharan Mbodj. You and I have watched him coach Real de Banjul, won a trophy with them, transitioned later, be part of the Gambia under-20 team, even the national team as assistant coach. Within the last few years, he's been to the United States of America at one point with a team, and also later in Denmark for AC Horsens. Now, it is the World Football Governing Body who has seen the precocious coaching talent in Matar Mbodj and appointed him as part of Africa's future generation of football development. And he will be working directly under the likes of Arsene Wenger, FIFA Talent Development Officer. Tell us, how do you feel about this news when you first saw it?
Yeah, it's absolutely great news for Gambian football and great for, of course, Gambian coaches. Because if you look at Matar from United Kingdom, came here, I can fully remember 2014, given that Real de Banjul job, and then he delivered absolutely brilliant job, winning the league with Real de Banjul. And I think Matar, I think he's coach that have given a lot of detail, a lot of keen attention to statistics. And I can remember during it wasn't Paul Put, forgot the coach, when Matar was responsible for, of course, studying the opposition and giving detailed outline report of the opposition strength. And I was fortunate enough to read some of those scouting missions, and it was absolutely amazing. And I think that is something that he's good at. He's not only a motivational speaker, he's not only good in identifying talents, but what the modern game requires, that is scouting mission and profiling players. He's absolutely very good at that, with that. And I think that was the main reason why he was very successful with our, of course, youth teams. Because with under 20, the WAFU competition, and of course, African Cup of Nations. Remember, he even qualified us to the World Cup, but due to COVID, we were not able to play the World Cup. And he has helped develop a lot of talents, and was part of the national team for quite a while. Have, of course, worked with a lot of coaches. So all that put into context, we should be very proud of Matar, but we should be very proud of our Coaches Association, because it was the Gambia's Coaches Association and the Gambia football teams that have given him the possibility to express what he can do. And that is where, of course, all the opportunities and all the avenues have opened up for him. And here it is, we can always be very proud to call him our own. Although maybe he might have believed that he still have a task to perform here in Gambia, but that is not still very late. I think we can still have him back, either as a coach or as, of course, a technical advisor. Why not even a technical director? These are all possibilities, because I think his mind framework when it comes to football is absolutely top notch, and I'm not surprised that where he is right now. And of course, we are sending all the flowers to him, and kudos to everybody that has, of course, helped him or worked with him in one way or the other, because no man is an island. Everybody needs people in order to be where you are. So very much proud of Matar, and remembering him back in 2014, a shy individual, very articulate individual with Real de Banjul, and then winning the league in style. Remember, there was a time when Real were deducted 6 points and Gamtel were comfortably at top. He managed to turn around the situation and won it comfortable. At that point of time, I say, this guy has something in him, and I'm not surprised where he is, and the sky is the limit. I know how hungry he is, how ambitious Matar is, and don't be surprised that if he goes even higher than where he is right now.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Matar Mbodj, we're going to celebrate you. You deserve every commendation, because we've seen where you started in the Gambia's First Division League and to where you are now. I say it's been a fantastic time with you, as always.
Sure.
And really a pleasure to be with you this time again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gajaga, and hope to be back again very soon.
We'll take a short break and we'll be back to talk about other sporting events as well. Thank you.
Mi yalonko wole warta nyimbanko kan adung adabe soniaring wala nyama imuna fang telefono la mi yalonko abe seniaring adung internet wobe tariaring nyindum kiusel dorna sinyin natia leno ibori yela kiusel lainota customer care mi sutia tima bi kiusel network ko mi warta network ko beti adung adabe soniaring kiusel sunu boss ndolla nga silo walang dolia bulan noma.
Hello? Nyale. Ya jangan kau kena bala kono tempat saya depan. Ya, barang kita dipita pun bisa diam.
Ya, ibi suba ayam calling you. Call nala suba beli lagi mulu lo jeli suma call.
Nyale so do man be call saya. Hold on, kana kuntu yamu.
No. It's not right.
Furmus yen tora.
Why suma lo call e? Dele jel. Why dang ene ka punu busy. Furmus dang ma da wa.
Kay besilala bi ulu nyumal.
Kay dimanche la.
Fayda malo ko QCell Sunday free call la samana. Dimanche free call QCell to QCell. Yo xamulo lolu nonu.
Qcell to Qcell dimanche bu nekk free call dimanche yalong dimanche min kana abemu free call lefi kabrim 12 somanda fo 12 kuto abemu free call lefi itama ñin lo moy ben bakal la yamo activé tuma di lan mota activé yalong ke la ñu tolé ala foy sa yefi dofi bi kanyina foy amanke activé ti hani free ko free lemu subscribe la wala gendang e man subscribe kutije ye crédit ko sang e man crédit ko sang sonde wo sonde free call lemu ini momor ni diate ina sa diam ne yalla ko ndeka ima mo yel kala no mere won na la way mi ratu mo boy holal dama bëggoon dem liggéey ma dem ba Abuna Island why let me go back to my room call Rosalinda wa betas ngalo ndako ite yete yalla kete dimanche lem le dimanche walal akani la e bali la coji tala truly and so on monde bi is suñu monde Qcell bi is suñu boss kota ani wadi ta fa kelinti na wala gaay bye
Bokal si network bu gëna rëy gëna yombale si réewi Gambia bi fii jëfandikool kool bu set internet bu gaaw li yëpp si njëg bu yomba fii si Qcell dawal léegi si suñ customer care bu la gën a jege ñu may la Qcell line te doo si fay dara Qcell network bu gën a rëy te it gën a yombale si réew mi fii Qcell suñu bas ñoo xaali yoon bi ñeneen toppa
Much for joining us. This is Qsports and I'm Mamudu Gajiga. We were talking about the Gambia national team, the Scorpions. World Cup qualifiers 2026, United States of America, Mexico and Canada. The Gambia will miss out, of course. The maximum points that we can have is 16 and already the group winners currently is Cote d'Ivoire. They have 20 points and the team that closely follows in the second place is Gabon on 19 points. So 1 point separate first and second. We are third in our group, which is 10 points. So we are way off the mark. Even if we win the last 2 games of the World Cup qualifiers against Gabon and Seychelles, it will be 16 points at maximum, which will not even be good enough for the teams that play like in the second place would have kind of a mini competition and the winner will get to the global playoff round. So we would miss out definitely. But some of you who would say, yes, this window basically we played in this and we're not going to achieve any success out of it. But remember, it's important for our FIFA rankings and it is also important as far as preparation for upcoming qualifiers are concerned. But again, for Coach Jonathan McKinstry, he sees this window as very successful. Let's listen to him. We had him earlier, but in a more detailed version in this interview. Gambia coach Jonathan McKinstry.
This was always going to be a difficult game because when you come into these camps, look, it was obvious that the Kenya game maybe might have taken a little bit more focus because you're playing in front of 50,000 people. They are the home team, and then to come off the high of that win and then come into this game in quite a small attendance, less than 1,000 people in the stadium. Although the Gambian fans, the community have turned out in their numbers, really pleased with that. And so, but a different type of game, kicking off at 10 o'clock at night. Floodlights going out for 30 minutes. It's currently midnight and the game's just finished. So this was a really crazy sort of situation to find ourselves in. But the guys have worked extremely hard. A 2-0 win, a clean sheet. We denied Burundi. They had 1 or 2 chances, not a lot. We could have maybe scored another couple. So guys worked extremely hard. We obviously rotated the team because, maybe some people might have looked at the starting lineup and thought, some of our senior players were on the bench. But it's because we have huge confidence and faith in the squad. And when they're working hard and training and doing well at their clubs, they deserve the opportunity to go out and show what they've got. And I thought we saw a great performance from everyone today.
This is the first time in the history of Gambian football that the Scorpions win back-to-back World Cup qualifiers. I'm not sure of the AFCON qualifiers, but definitely the World Cup, this is the first time.
Yeah, we were aware coming into this. Look, they've had some back-to-back wins before, but they've been in different windows. So maybe they won the second game in a March window and won the first game in a June window. But we became aware earlier in the week that they've never won back-to-back qualifiers in the same window. So to have a perfect window of 6 points, it's never happened in, the last 60, 70 years of Gambian football. So we told that to the players. We said, we consistently ask them to raise the standard, to raise it. And yes, it puts them under pressure, because maybe you'd say, oh, don't put them under pressure, they're young guys, but I think these guys respond to pressure. And so, yeah, look, it's not a qualification, it's not, playing at a World Cup, but I think we have to take every step forward and celebrate it, and we've got to, strive for better every day. So look, it's 2 wins back to back. It's been a great camp. It's moved us to 3rd position in the group as far as I'm aware. It's probably jumped us 5, 6, 7 places in the world rankings. And now it's about when we play Gabon in 4 weeks' time, can we make it 3 wins in a row? Because again, I'm aware that the Gambia, the longest winning run ever in any competition is 2 wins in a row. So can we make it 3 wins in a row? That's the next challenge for these players.
But that's actually even the qualifier. But then we are on a run of 4 matches without defeat, 3 wins and a draw. And in the last 2 matches, the previous camp obviously was relatively a team of B team players, I would call it. What is working for you as a coach?
I think we've just got buy-in from all of the players. Whether they're the senior guys who've been around a little bit or the young guys who are new to the camp, and we've got a lot of young guys. I think in the starting lineup today we had 4 of the guys who were at the U20 World Cup a couple of years ago, and you saw even again young players coming into the lineup. Obviously Yankuba started on the bench. Everyone forgets how young Yankuba is. So we had young guys out there today, and they're bringing energy, and the experienced guys are leading with that experience. And yeah, there's a nice combination, but I just think we've got a group of really high ambition players. They want to do so well, but look, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got a long journey to go. It's another step forward in the right direction. There's still things to work on, but we'll take the win and we fly home.
Finally, what impact would this have on your team building process ahead of the 2027 AFCON qualifiers?
I think it just shows we're right to have trust in the young guys, okay, and all the guys. And I also think it shows, the atmosphere in the camp is not one, there's no jealousy, there's no sort of, if someone else starts ahead of me, I want bad for him. No, everyone's supporting each other. Yeah, there'll be disappointment when people are on the substitutes bench, there always is, but they're supporting the guys on the field and they're ready to come in. And look, I think you saw that today. Bamba and Federo were very disappointed not to start against Kenya. They got their starts today, put in great performances today. Same, Adam Bojang came in today, put a great performance on. But then the guys on the bench ready to come in and have an impact. So I just think we trust these players. We are constantly raising the standard, asking more for them, but it's growing and there's more to come.
Well, that was Coach Jonathan McKinstry there, speaking to the Gambia Football Federation Media and Communications Director Babukar Kamara after the game against Burundi. But how does the lack of a playable stadium affected the Gambia's qualification in this World Cup qualifiers? If we had a playable stadium, a stadium that is accepted by CAF approved, this game against Burundi would have been played at the Independence Stadium. But unfortunately, because the stadium is not up to the standard required to play international football, we are playing our home matches away. That's quite unfortunate, and it's been 2 years since the stadium renovation began, or even more than 2 years, and still it could not get to the level where it would be fully approved. It was giving partial approval until the Gambia played that, would I say, CHAN qualifiers with Algeria and eventually lost. And if you look at the stadium, this is our only stadium in the country as far as football is concerned at the top level, especially if you want to host senior international matches. You see some of the pictures there. That was when the inspection was done a few months ago, earlier this year, and it wasn't given full approval as far as the international football is concerned. And this has somehow affected the performance of the team when it comes to home matches, because there are some matches that were played away. If those matches have been played at home, there is high possibility that the Gambia would collect maximum points, because the fans would be at the stadium to give the players all the support. But unfortunately, we're still waiting. So many timelines have been given to say it would be ready for this past September window that we just witnessed. At some point, it was going to be ready for the March window, but that has also passed. Now, even for the October window, a game against Gabon should be played at home, but it appears even that one is not going to be played at home. It will be a game played away from home. And Seychelles, of course, is a home game for them. They would have to choose where they want to host the Gambia in that game. And around January, possibly, that's what the authorities are looking at. Let's now talk about beach volleyball. The Gambia hosted 11 countries, and this was a competition meant to develop young volleyball players under the age of 18 in preparation for the Youth Olympic Games in Dakar, Senegal, which is going to be in 2026, that is next year. And at the climax of this beach volleyball competition, it was the Gambia male team who won the gold medal, and the women's team won silver medal. But for more reports, let's hear this. Claimed gold, while the women's team took silver at the finals, held at Kasumai Beach. In a display of dominance, the men's team defeated Sierra Leone in straight sets, 21-17 and 21-15, to secure the championship. However, it was not such smooth sailing for the Gambia women's team, who faced a formidable DR Congo side in the finals. The host fell in two straight sets, 21-14 and 21-18, as DR Congo capped off their impressive campaign with a gold medal. The Gambia secured silver, while Nigeria settled for bronze. With 12 nations competing, the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Namibia, DR Congo, Morocco, Egypt, Ivory Coast, Cape Verde and Tunisia, the tournament not only showcased talent but also served as a vital preparation for the 2026 Youth Olympic Games in Dakar. As the Under-18 Youth Development Cup name implies, the three-day tournament unearthed fresh talents, renewed hopes and reaffirmed commitment to youth development. Above all, the Gambia demonstrated excellent organization, leaving a lasting mark on the competition. And finally on Qsports, let's talk about the Manjai Super Cup. Kololi Central FC goalkeeper Adama Sane, brought in as a last-minute substitute, became the hero, specifically for the penalty shootout, and he stole the spotlight with a stunning save, helping his team clinch the Manjai Super Cup trophy for 3 on penalties against Lemon 3. And Pakaba Suso was there. He can give us the details.
Stakeholders in attendance, including representatives from the Gambia Football Federation and other regional football bodies, the Manjai Super Cup final between last season's league champions Kololi Central and knockout winners Lemon 3 delivered on all fronts. The newly renovated Faragov Sport Complex witnessed a thrilling display of quality football, drama and passion as the match ended 1-1 in normal time. Kololi Central FC dominated the first half, creating numerous goal-scoring opportunities. With both Bilal Job and Salih Jallow coming close, their relentless pressure and precise passing paid off in the final third when Sekou Dabo, also known as Elano, broke the deadlock with a well-controlled strike, putting his team firmly in the lead. Lemon 3 FC emerged after the break as a transformed side, pressing the league champions with relentless waves of attack. Coach Modolamin Dour's decisive substitutions paid off when Modou Jallow equalized with a classic number 9 finish inside the box. With the game heading to penalties, Kololi Central coach Omar Sy, in a move reminiscent of Dutch national team coach Louis van Gaal's call at the 2014 World Cup, made a bold decision to substitute his first-choice goalkeeper for Adama Sane. Louis van Gaal's penalty switch was his famous tactical decision to substitute goalkeeper Jesper Cillessen for Tim Krul, seconds before a penalty stood out in the Netherlands' 2014 World Cup quarter-final against Costa Rica. Krul went on to save 2 penalties to win the match for his side. It was later described as the greatest substitution ever made in a World Cup match. In this match, Sane similarly repaid his coach's trust by saving the decisive penalty, securing a 4-3 stood-out victory for Kololi Central. The team celebrated with a trophy and a prize of $20,000, while Lemon Tree received $15,000. Modu Lamindur is the head coach of Lemon Tree, the losing team.
Although it's not a bad game for us, because you can see the penalty shootout, one must win there. So our captain came and kicked, but him managed to lose. But yet still now, we have this confidence that we can do it. But unfortunately, we couldn't make it because it's football.
Omar C is the head coach of Kololi Central, the reigning champions.
I'm very happy. I'm very, very, very happy because it's a tough game, but unfortunately we came out with the victory. So I'm very happy with the boys and my technical staff. Yeah.
The Manjai Sports Association expressed gratitude to QCell, Gambia's largest GSM company, for their support. Kololi Central FC's victory in the Manjai Super Cup showcased skill, determination and strategic brilliance. From Elano's opening goal to Sane's decisive penalty save, the match was a thrilling display of football, rewarding the champions with a trophy, prize money and unforgettable memories for players and fans alike.
That was the beautiful report there by Pakaba Suso, who was at the Manjai Fadagov Sports Complex to witness this Super Cup final, proudly sponsored by QCell. And we say congratulations to the winners. Well, these Nawetan teams, these Nawetan players, some of them are now in the national team. Adama Sidibe, who was absolutely a fantastic player against Kenya, was playing in the Brikama Nawetan for Puntalana FC just a few years ago. You would be surprised now he plays in the Scottish Premier League and now as part of the Gambia national team and probably would be part of the team for the foreseeable future because of his performance. And the coach, Jonathan McKinstry, had trust in the player. So Nawetan football is one of the beautiful atmospheres, and it's one of the platforms and opportunities given to players to showcase their talents. And there is community support because teams feel there is a sense of belonging. They definitely own those teams. Those teams are from their communities, and those players are part of what they call "This is our own." Sometimes you would hear songs like "Our Land, Our Cup," especially if the host team are particularly playing in the final eventually. Well, that's it for Qsports today. Thank you very much for watching. Join us next week at the same time and have a very lovely day. Bye.